Greetings everybody, and welcome back to the landscape. This time a local landscape to where I live, not the Lake District National Park. So today's video, I'm going to talk about a lens. I'm going to talk about a new purchase, new lenses on the camera in front of me, and it is, let's just jump straight in, it is the new Sigma 70-200 f2.8 DGDN sports lens, which was a bit of an impulse buy. But I had a try with it at a photography show, and I'll be honest with you, even when I went to the show and before I'd even picked the thing up, I was already 50% of the way there. And the reason for that is that the 70-200 focal length range is a range that I use quite a lot out in the landscape. Now, as has been mentioned on this channel several times, I don't go and just buy things. I usually buy things to solve a problem. So my original 70-200 solution is this one, which is a Canon 70-200. It is an EF f4 LIS USM lens. Quite an old lens now, but I used one back in the day when I was using Canon cameras. I knew that it performed very well, it was very reliable, and it created excellent images. Now, clearly this is an EF fit lens for Canon cameras, so I am using the Sigma MC21 EF to L mount adapter on the back of this lens, and most of the time when I use this lens I have no problems whatsoever using it. However, there was one occasion when I leaned on the autofocus capability of both the camera and the lens. And that's where I came unstuck. I was at the coast in stormy seas trying to track waves as they crashed over the shore. And of course the timing of each one is slightly different depending on its size and volume, and it's the water's interaction with the seabed. So I was trying to use the autofocus to watch a wave coming through and then try and grab that perfect moment. I know the AF on the Sigma FPL isn't brilliant, but when coupled with this lens and the adapter, this lens hunted like fury. And what I actually did was I swapped over to my the other lens that I had at the time, which was the 28-70 contemporary. And when using that lens, the autofocus was just there every time. So it wasn't necessarily the AF on the camera letting me down. I think it was a combination of the camera using an old EF lens and also doing it through an adapter. As a result of that experience, I actually went and purchased the Sigma 100-400 contemporary lens, and autofocus on that is absolutely spot on. So if I was ever in that situation again, that's probably the lens that I would reach for in order to have a good focal range to play with, but also knowing that the AF wouldn't let me down. I know in such conditions that I need to be careful with both the camera and the contemporary lens because they're not fully weather sealed, so I would use a rain cover or whatever to protect it from the elements. So also based on that experience, I'd always had a hankering to upgrade my 70-200. Most of the time out in the landscape, I'm using manual focus anyway, but every once in a while, I do lean on the autofocus capabilities of the 70-200, and I wanted to be able to feel comfortable that if I was out in the landscape with a 70-200, that if I needed to lean on the AF, then I could. Hence this purchase. That's 80% of the reason. The other 20% is Well, to be brutally honest, this is a Sigma L-mount camera, and I wanted to use Sigma L-mount lenses that are tailor-made to work with an L-mount camera. This was convenient and cheap, if I'm being brutally honest with you. I'm not going to get rid of it, actually. I'm going to hang on to it as a backup. I mean, if I was to sell it now, I'd get next to nothing for it, and it works perfectly. Also, I've now got a spare EF to L mount adapter, so you know, if I ever feel tempted to go and have a play with another EF lens, I've got an adapter I can put straight on the back of it. So I'm going to hang on to that lens as a backup and as a spare, just in case I ever have an accident with this one. Obviously, I know that the backup has a slight Achilles heel, but you know, that's fine. I'll put up with it. So I've only had this lens for a couple of weeks. I would make the point, I've purchased it with my own money. Sigma haven't lent me this lens. I'm not making this video, sorry, at Sigma's request. However, I do enjoy a very good relationship with Sigma UK, and I kind of feel I owe it to them to actually make a video that summarizes what I like about this lens, maybe what I find a little bit curious about the lens as well. But so far, using it, I've really enjoyed it. It's solid, it's smooth, gives me confidence. To some extent, it's actually encouraging me to look for those subjects where I can use a long focal length and also use the 2.8 aperture, because it's giving me the confidence that I can go and do that and come away with some really good results. So let me talk about a few things that I really like about this lens, and then I'll also cover a few things that I'm finding a little bit curious about it. So let me bring you a little bit closer to it, and we can have a chat. Right, so here is the lens in all its glory. Things that I really like about it are, I really like the very, very simple lens hood. I had an Olympus, it's a 40-150 f2.8 lens, an absolutely beautiful lens to use, but it had a very, very clever sliding lens hood, which, if it worked, it was wonderful. But I saw lots and lots of posts from people saying that, you know, eventually one day the thing falls apart, and once it falls apart, you're done for. This is really, really simple. It's a mixture of plastic and some kind of alloy, and it's got a very, very simple locking structure, but it literally, you just slide it on, do it up, job done. Really, really easy to use. The other item that I like about this lens is the way in which you can alter from format to portrait. So at the moment, landscape to portrait. So at the moment it's in landscape. Now you won't be able to hear this, but when you undo the locking ring, it clicks. You could probably see it rather than hear it. It clicks into place, which is very, very clever and such a useful feature. Not that there's anything wrong with the way in which this lens or any other does it. You just line up the two marks. But sometimes when the camera's quite high up, it's quite difficult to see those two marks. Now, I don't need to look at the two marks. I can literally know that it's where it needs to be, which is really, really neat, really tidy, and a nice big locking screw as well. Now, a couple of curious things. It has an aperture ring on the lens, which allows you to change the aperture. I've actually locked it. Currently, I've got it in the A position, which then uses the dials on the camera in order to change the aperture, but you can actually do it yourself if you choose. And I can kind of understand why some people might prefer to do that, but I don't know. I'm having a flirtation with film photography, and of course manual focus film lenses the aperture is on the ring. So to some extent, if you're used to working that way, I can actually see it being not an advantage, but I can see it being appealing. I'm so used to changing the aperture on the camera itself that I actually don't use it. I leave it on the A position, and as I've already mentioned, there's a very handy lock button that I can click into place, and now that ring just stays there in the A position, which is quite cool. In terms of buttons, I know these are upside down for you guys, but I have an AF to MF selection button. It's on MF at the moment. A focus limiting option, which can be 3 meters to infinity, under 3 meters, and full. I just leave it on full. 2 types of OS, OS1 and OS2. OS1 is your normal handheld optical stabilization, and 2 can be used for if you're doing any panning, which I don't do a huge amount of panning these days. I used to shoot motorsport quite a lot. If I ever get the chance to do it again, I'll give that a play. There are 2 custom options, C1 and C2. I haven't played with those. And there is the option to play with the click. I'm not quite sure what that does because I haven't played with it yet. But that's the options on the lens. I kind of don't really use them or play with them. There's also an optional button here that you can program to get it to do what you want it to do. And it's actually got a massive foot on the collar, which for me is the wrong way round for the tripod that I use. But as you can see, I've just put a normal PU70 plate on the bottom, and on it goes, and it fits in the bag quite neatly as well. Just lock that up so it doesn't fall over. And yeah, cracking piece of kit, lovely and smooth. I haven't quite got used to the zoom ring being here and the focus ring being here. I'm kind of used to it the other way around. In fact, I've just looked at my Canon lens, and hopefully you can see it's the other way around. The zoom is there and the focus is there. This is the other way around. So when I first got this lens out and started to have a play with it, I was getting them back to front, but I'm sure that that will come with time and come with experience. So I'm out here today trying to have a play with some bluebells. So let's just have a quick look at the back of the camera, and we'll take a picture of some bluebells and get this video wrapped up. Okay, there's the back of my FPL. One thing I forgot to mention actually, whilst I was going through what I like and so on and so forth, is because this is an L-mount lens, when I use the manual focus ring, the camera will automatically do that focus zoom function, whereby it zooms in on the point that you've selected in the camera to be the point of focus. So it's done it there actually. Let me just, there we go. Not quite sure what it's focusing on there. It doesn't really matter. Let me find where's my bluebell gone? So yes, now I can show that focus feature straight away. Ordinarily, with the Canon lens, I'd actually have to press OK, which does the same thing. Do the whole manual focus thing, but then remember to press OK. With this lens, I literally just have to touch the focus manual focus ring, and as soon as I take my hands away, boom, I'm done. I don't think I necessarily need to underexpose, and I've selected f4. I'll just crank it back a bit to 3.5, something like that. The reason why I'm not using 2.8 is because I'd like the whole of this flower to be sharp, and selecting an aperture of 3.5, maybe even f4 allows me to do that. But at f4, I think some of the background starting to show. It's a little bit too much, whereas at 3.5 it's not too bad. And yes, do you know what? I know I'm a bit early for bluebells, but hey, there we go. It's nice to be outside. So I'm just going to adjust my composition, come down a wee bit. There we go. Nice and level. Rock and roll, take the picture. I have a funny feeling I'm not on a timer. No, I'm not. Boom, boom. Just review the image. Make sure it looks good, which it does. There we go. One brand new lens, taking a brand new picture. Very happy, very, very happy with that indeed. So there you go, first impressions. Obviously I need to use it a bit more in order to get a thorough view, but the fact that I've gotten it out of the box and I'm playing with it without really too much thought probably says more than I probably give it credit for. And I know there are all sorts of other custom functions on it that at the moment are not really of much interest to me. Maybe one day I'll actually get the instruction manual back out and have a play with them. I did use the instruction manual, by the way. I wanted to know what the difference between the optical stabilization modes were, just so that I understood them if I ever actually needed to use them when hand holding the camera, I don't know, back out at the coast tracking waves or whatever. I just wanted to ensure that I understood what they did. Now, Sigma did used to do a trial system where you could hire a lens for a short period of time if you were thinking about entering into a purchase. It was called Sigma Select. Now, unfortunately, they don't do that service anymore. However, if you Google Sigma Select, you will be taken to a page, a Sigma page, where it's officially announced that they're discontinuing the service, but they've then partnered with another company. I think it's called Try It, but a company that specializes in hiring out lenses and cameras from different manufacturers for short periods of time. I was looking at it for, I think it was for a Fuji lens. One of my photo buddies was asking me about it, and they wanted to hire, it was a 56mm f1.2, I think, lens, and the cost for hiring that for 7 days was something like in the region of about £50. There was quite a hefty deposit in addition, but of course if you look after the lens, then the deposit is meaningless. But the ability to be able to use the lens for 7 days for a not unreasonable sum of money, I thought was actually a very good idea, and maybe it's something I will use in the future if I'm ever tempted by other purchases. So if you're tempted by one of these lenses because you have a problem to fix, then I'd encourage you to go and have a look at that service and give it a try. Thank you very much for watching. If you've liked the content, please do give it a thumbs up. The YouTube algorithm likes that, and hopefully it will spread the good news about this lens out to a wider audience. And until the next video, please everybody, take care, stay safe and stay well, and enjoy using your new kit the same way I am. Take care, all the best now.